Now today I'm going to show you how to paint an easy watercolour woodland scene using a variety of techniques such as masking fluid, stippling, splattering, wet in wet washes, and also a little bit of fine detail work along the way. So let's get the brushes wet and let's get started. Now let's make a start. With my old brush I'm going to use some French ultramarine first of all. Now I want all these colours to be more of a watery consistency, so not creamy, not milky, nothing like that, just watery. Then I'm going to switch to alizarin crimson, which is a lovely bright colour, isn't it? And after that one, what I'm going to do is go for some olive green. I know, olive green. And then sap green and French ultramarine. So remember, everything is lovely and watery. Now, masking fluid, in this case PBO drawing gum. This is more or less a latex free one, it really is. Then using my ruling pen, what I'm going to do is start to kind of work out the sort of rough shape of the trees. Flicking out as I go along as well. Another way you can do this, by the way, when you're creating trees, is think about the way that the trees grow. So it's going to grow from the base, obviously towards the tip of the branches. But the base is going to be much thicker, isn't it? So you can start thicker at the base, then gradually slim down as you get higher up the tree. I want to get these from both sides as well if I can. Now let's wet the background with a Pan Art Series 1182 size 18, or any size 18 mop brush will be fine. This one with a densified handle, very hard wood, but it's quite a nice brush actually, I do like it. Now let's wet the paper, and you want to wet the paper at least probably twice, maybe even 3 times. Allow that water to soak into the paper as well. And the reason why I do that is because that will give you a little bit more working time when you start applying the paint, because the paper will stay wetter that little bit longer. Using my very old Pro Art brush, start off with a French ultramarine first of all. I'm thinking about the colour of the sky to begin with, so I'm going to apply this right to the very top of the paper. Then gradually work our way down, but see what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to leave a bit of a gap in the middle of the paper as well. I want this to sort of lightly blend to the white of the paper towards the middle. Very lightly, very carefully. And you can see the way that the masking fluid seems to work and come through, can't you? Then working with the alizarin crimson and also a touch more of the French ultramarine. Then we can add the greens as well. So starting with that olive green, working your way down and start to add in the double mix of the sap green and the Payne's grey. Then using a folded piece of kitchen roll, take it right down the side of the paper just to tidy it up a little bit. Now I've got this paper taped down all the way around it as well with some near on invisible masking tape. Okay, Payne's grey. Payne's grey. I'm going to use that one with a little bit of our blue colour in there, the French ultramarine. Then using our size 6 brush, which is a Rosemary & Co series 366, just out of interest. It's got a very good point on this one, by the way, so I like it. So it's a large brush for me, really. I know, I usually use size 00s, which I'll use in a bit as well. But it's got a good point on it. Start painting the trees. Now, when you paint the trees in, depending on how wet the paper is will depend on how much it blurs, how much it kind of blurs in towards the background. So if you let the paper dry for a little bit more, you find your lines a little bit more defined, so it won't be quite as blurry as this. But to be honest with you, I want to think about the layers for the trees. And the way I'm going to do that is by just using that Payne's grey and the French ultramarine mix. I'm going to add a little bit of this colour as well down to the bottom within the greens. I know, why not? Yeah. And this will simply create different shapes within the grass. Now using a damp clean brush, lift off that paint a little bit to create more of a sort of meandering pathway, gradually getting wider as it comes down towards the bottom of the painting. Okay, raw umber, watery. Drop this into the damp paper. A little bit of that alizarin crimson in there as well, only a touch though, very very weak. Now let it dry for a few hours and then come back in with your large mop brush again and re-wet it. I know. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to add another layer of the details over the top. So again, back to that Payne's grey and French ultramarine, which is actually dried a little bit in my palette, so therefore it's a little bit thicker to use as well. Not creamy, probably more of a milky consistency. And this is just another layer, another plane of distance. That's what we're trying to create here. Adding a few kind of rough ideas of bushes within the background. Add a little bit more towards the foreground as well, the middle ground and the foreground. Then re-lift out that path again, I know. Again, leave it to dry, then start again with that milky consistency of Payne's grey and the French ultramarine. And our size 6 brush, and then put another layer of trees over the top. Now you can see my mix has probably dried a little bit more now, and because of that the lines are slightly darker. You can thicken that mix down at this stage if you want to as well. I don't want it really dark just yet, not yet, not quite there yet. So I just want to get this layer on first of all using this one colour. Thinking about the way again that the tree grows, and I like to kind of flick out as well with the brush, when you get towards the top of the branch. But do this with very minimal pressure and a barely loaded brush, otherwise your lines will be far too thick. Then start to create a little bit more form underneath the trees as well, just some interest really. We don't know what they are, we're guessing it's foliage of some form, but it doesn't really matter, it really doesn't, it's too far away to see it anyway. Then back into the olive green using a semi-dry brush. Now notice the way that I'm holding this brush. So I'm holding this at quite a low angle. And because of that I can use the side of the brush, or just about the side of the brush, just to skim the texture of the watercolour paper. And take your time doing this as well. Try to be a little bit more creative when you add this on. Don't just slap it on anywhere, okay? Think about patterns and shapes and so on as you do this. Then work down the side of the path as well, add a little bit more colour in there using that raw umber. Now again, once it's dry, and there's a lot of drying going on here, using a very clean finger, remove that masking fluid. Now because this is that PBO masking fluid, it comes off in small tiny bits all the time. Which is fine, I don't mind that, but it just gets a little bit messy sometimes and it tends to stick everywhere, believe you me. But it's really good stuff, and 9 times out of 10 it's come off the paper no problem at all. And this will leave all the branches nice and white. Then Winsor Newton Godman Series 111 size 00, my favourite fantastic brush. A brush which I use for many of my wildlife paintings. Okay, let's go back to our raw umber. And this is where we can start to add a little bit more detail over these branches. Just very carefully leaving gaps in between as well, so I want to maintain quite a lot of those white areas. But by doing this, it just adds that extra bit of colour to those branches, doesn't it? Rather than just stark white. Take your time, don't rush it. Just don't cover everything up when you do this, okay? It's also worth thinking about where the light is coming from as well, and what part of that branch will be in shadow. So you can do it that way around as well. And this is just one option that you've got. You can obviously play with different ideas with this, you really can. And colours of course. So lemon yellow, sap green to milky consistency. Here we go. Get ready for it. You ready? Yeah. Let's do a little bit of stippling with this Deerfoot stippler. I know, never used one of these before, 40 plus years of painting, I know, and I've never used a Deerfoot brush. So I'm going to give this one a go for the first time today, on camera of course. And let's see what happens with it, shall we? Now you can't see it quite well because my hand's in the way, being a lefty. But you can see just the pattern is creating now just by stippling with this brush, and it actually works really well, I have to say. So this brush is very handy for things like foliage, texture as well. So if you want to put texture on some gravel, on a beach or something like that, you may be painting a seascape, then you can use this for that as well. Then I'm going to switch back to my size 6, and then let's start to define things a little bit more within the foreground. So flick it up using the size 6 and hardly any pressure, start to add some grass right in the bottom of the foreground there. And once that's dry, I think it's about time we covered the paper up, don't you? What do you mean cover it up, Paul? We're going to cover it up for a good reason. We're going to do a little bit of splattering. I know, here we go, ready for this. Now using my old mixing brush, and this is a very stiff bristled brush, very lightly flick. Now the more that you put on the brush, the bigger the blobs will be, alright, the splats will be. So don't overload that brush, just put a little bit on there and see what you get. And you can see the kind of splattering effects you get from that. Then all I want to do is just lightly soften that down just a touch more, and then I'm going to add a little bit of watercolour white by using the same splattering technique. I know, here we go, get ready for this. Now watercolour white's a lovely one to use, and you want to make sure that your white paint is opaque in nature. Because if you get something like a semi-transparent or semi-opaque white paint, you find that it could fade too much as it dries. Now the more water you add to opaque whites, in this case watercolour white, then you find it could dry a little bit duller. So it depends on the effect that you want, it really does. Now time to remove the masking tape, and you can see the masking tape I used is very, very clear. Some people wouldn't even know it was on there in the first place. Yeah. Using a Jelly Roll 08 pen, let's give it a quick signature down the bottom right hand corner, shall we? Now how about learning how to paint a seascape in watercolour using very similar techniques? If you do, have a look at the link to the top right hand corner of the screen. I'll see you there.